Sangha by Venerable Mahinda. Venerable Mahinda was ordained in 1976 under the tutelage of the late Venerable Dr. K. Sri Dhammananda Nayakathera. He has taught mindfulness and metta meditation for 45 years in over 20 countries. Currently, Venerable Mahinda is abbot of the Aloka Meditation Center in Australia, founder and spiritual director of Australian Buddhist Mission, general advisor to the Buddhist Missionary Society Malaysia, and founder and spiritual director of Aloka Foundation Malaysia. He is advisor to a number of other Buddhist organizations in Malaysia, Singapore, and Australia. The aim of this series on the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is to highlight their great qualities and to draw inspiration for us to walk the Dhamma's path. When we are living in fear and danger, worry and anxiety, we need to seek refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We need their blessings, guidance, and protection. Those who have faith and devotion to the Buddha will naturally find solace in times of need. Those who have developed insights into the Dhamma will have greater awareness and acceptance of the ups and downs of life. Those who connect with the Sangha will receive the necessary guidance and inspiration along the path. Many years ago, I heard my teacher saying, Abhinyayam, abhinyatam, bhavate bancha bhavitam, pahattabam, pahiname, tasma birosmi brahmana. These words kept resonating in my mind. As I made some effort to understand the meaning of these words, I realized the profoundness of the Buddha and his teachings. I wish to share this Dhamma with all our Dhamma brothers and sisters. What little I've learned is from my teacher and his teacher's teacher. I am indeed grateful for all their kindness, inspiration, and sacrifices. Their teachings are so relevant in these challenging times. On the completion of my 45th Vasa, spent at Aloka Mitra Singapore, I dedicate Volume 3 in this series to all members of the Sangha and laity who have helped to preserve the dispensation of the Buddha, or the Buddha Sasana, to this very day. May all their noble aspirations be fulfilled. The term Sangha in Pali and Sanskrit literally means community, and in the broadest sense, the Sangha refers to the entire Buddhist community all around the world. It includes the fourfold order of monks, bhikkhu, nuns, bhikkhuni, laymen, upasaka, and laywomen, upasika. However, in many instances, the word Sangha is used to refer more specifically to the monastic order of the Sangha, the ordained bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, samanera, novice monks, and samaneri, novice nuns. In its most specific sense, it refers to the holy order of the Arya Sangha, comprising of monks and nuns as well as lay followers who have attained the path of fruition, Maggaphala. The emergence of the Sangha. The first members of the Sangha were the Buddha's 5 friends who had been practicing extreme asceticism together with the Buddha before he attained enlightenment. After he gained enlightenment, the Buddha remembered his 5 friends and sought them out, preaching to them his first sermon at the Deer Park in Sarnath. At the conclusion of his sermon, one of them, Kondanya, attained the first stage of sainthood and asked to become the Buddha's disciple. He was the first bhikkhu or monk. With further training, the other four also attained the first stage of sainthood. Soon after, the Buddha met a young man called Yasa. Yasa was so impressed with the Buddha's teaching that he asked to join him, and this also convinced 54 of his friends to do likewise. The Sangha now totaled 60 monks, whom the Buddha trained until all of them attained arahantship. The Sangha's mission. At the end of the 3 months, the Buddha advised them to go out to spread the Dhamma. No two going in the same direction. Charattabhika vicharikam bahujana hitaya bahujana sukhaya lokhanukampaya ataya hitaya sukhaya deva manusanam. Wander forth, O monks, for the welfare and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, the welfare, and the happiness of gods and humans. This summarizes the Buddha's mission to the world and the Sangha's role to uphold his mission. Wherever the Sangha traveled, it has played an important role in promoting and preserving the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha established the order of the Sangha in order to provide opportunities for those who wish to dedicate their life to the study, practice, and realization of the Dhamma, and who will then be able to reach out to the public to promote the Dhamma. Development of the Sangha. Over time, Sangha members became loosely divided into 2 groups. One is the Vipassana Dura or forest dwellers, who live far away from urban areas, usually spending their time in meditation retreats in forests and mountains, developing calmness and insight. The other is the Gantadura, or village dwellers, who were usually learned in the Dhamma and attended to the spiritual needs of urban communities. This loose division still exists today amongst the modern Sangha. However, this was not and is not a formal rule, as there are some who choose to alternate between living in the forest and in the city at different times of the year. Ordination. In the initial period, the Buddha simply said, "Ehi bhikkhu," come, O monk, to admit a person into the Sangha. However, as the Sangha spread the Dhamma across India, it became impractical for all those seeking to enter the Sangha to travel to see the Buddha and be ordained by the Buddha himself. Thus, the Buddha developed proper procedures for admitting people to the order of the Sangha, and these ordination traditions are still followed today in all the different schools of Buddhism. First, the Buddha allowed a single Sangha member to ordain others by administering the 3 refuge, Saranagamana, and later also the 10 precepts. As the Sangha became larger, the Buddha then required that a quorum of at least 5 monks be present for the ordination ceremony, and the person wishing to be ordained must declare his intent to enter the Sangha and his fitness to enter the Sangha. Finally, the Buddha split the ordination ceremony into two parts. First, the request to become a novice who would uphold the 10 precepts, and then the request to become a monk or nun who would uphold the Vinaya precepts. The order of nuns was established after the Buddha's stepmother, Mahapajapati, along with 500 noble Sakyan women, begged to be allowed to enter the Sangha. The Buddha's move to admit women into the order was unusually progressive, given the lowly status of women in India at the time. Vinaya or Code of Conduct. The Sangha community has been able to survive for more than 2,500 years, maintaining its unity and harmony, largely due to the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. Like any other organization, as the Sangha grew larger, it began to attract people from all walks of life, and sometimes differences of opinion would arise. At other times, the lay community was disturbed by what some Sangha members were doing and reported it to the Buddha. Whenever such events occurred, the Buddha would gather the Sangha together and discuss what they could do to solve the problem. The results of their discussion became a code of moral conduct known as the Vinaya. It is the guideline by which the Sangha goes about their daily activities and a source of precedent they can draw on to deal with both internal and external crises. The Buddha made it clear that these were guidelines to protect those who wish to purify their minds. The Buddha never imposed these rules on anyone who was unwilling. The Sangha was and is a uniquely democratic religious community, supporting its members on the path to liberation. And despite the moral decline of this current era, there are still a number of authentic masters in the various traditions who maintain the lineage of the noble Sangha. Vasa or the rains retreat. The only period when the monks and nuns would stay in one place was for the Vasa or the rainy season in India. During this time, while working over fields of paddy and grain, they would inevitably crush the worms and small insects that had come up to escape the rain. Lay people saw this and became upset, contrasting the Buddhist Sangha with other religious groups, who would arrange to stay in one place during the rainy season. After gathering the Sangha together, the Buddha suggested that they also adopt this practice. And thus, it has come down to us today as Vasa or the rains retreat. Because all monks and nuns would observe the Vasa, it became a useful way of marking the length of time a person had been a member of the Sangha, and by extension, their seniority within the Sangha. As Buddhism grew, it also spread beyond the borders of India to China and Tibet. In accordance with the traditions laid out by the Buddha, the Sangha in these places adapted to the changes in climate and the seasons. For this reason, the monks and nuns in these regions moved the Vasa period to the summer season, from April to July, and called it the summer retreat. This practice is still observed in the Mahayana Sangha today, especially in China. where at the end of the Vasa coincides with the Ulambana or Hungry Ghost Festival. Temples and monasteries. In the beginning, monks and nuns would stay for the Vasa in simple, temporary dwellings made of wood or bamboo, which they built themselves or were offered by lay people. They would all share a communal hall which was used for chanting, teaching, and meetings. This type of building can be seen today among the monks of the forest traditions, especially in Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, and other countries where the Sangha observe the Vasa or rains retreat. As time went on, these structures were rebuilt with more lasting materials, and often a stupa would be erected holding the relics of the Buddha or an Arahant. A Bodhi tree would be planted as a reminder of the enlightenment of the Buddha. Often an additional hall would be built as a shrine for the laity, where they could come for prayers and listen to the Dhamma, the beginnings of Buddhist temples. By the time of the Emperor Asoka, such dwellings had become permanent compounds, with usually 15 to 20 monks or nuns residing there on a regular basis. Here, the Sangha could live, study, and practice as a larger community. This practice developed into the Buddhist monasteries and temples we see today, although the number of monks and nuns have dwindled in most places. Robes. In the early days of the Sangha, monks and nuns would gather pieces of cloth left unburned at cremation grounds or unwanted scrap cloth, roughly sew them together, and then dye them to make a robe that they could wear. Some would be offered good quality robes from a single piece cloth. This meant that when they gathered together for the alms round, Pindapata, or Dhamma gatherings, there was no uniformity in their attire, as some would be wearing badly patched robes, and lay people would comment about their unsightly appearance. As a result, the Buddha once remarked to Ananda as they were passing by some paddy fields, "Ananda, do you see how the paddy fields are neatly divided into squares by thin rows for walking and surrounded by an outer boundary? Do you think you could provide groups of similar kind to the Sangha?" "Yes, I can, sir." So Ananda went along to make some ropes. He cut the cloth into square pieces and stitched them together with thin rows of cloth between them, and then surrounded it all with an outer boundary of thicker cloth. Ananda then returned to the Buddha and showed them to him. The Buddha praised him in front of the other Sangha members, saying, "See how Ananda understands fully what I said only in brief. All the Sangha's robes should be sewn together in this manner from pieces of cloth." Life in the Sangha. For monks and nuns, the Sangha is an association of like-minded practitioners who have the same goal of striving for enlightenment. It is a community where individuals can learn and be inspired by each other, and to live in a way that is most suited for attainment of Nibbana. Whole of the holy life. On one occasion, Ananda mentioned to the Buddha that spiritual friendship is half of the holy life. But the Buddha replied, "Don't say that, Ananda. Spiritual friendship is actually the whole of the holy life. When a monk has virtuous people as friends, companions, and colleagues, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path." On another occasion, the Buddha declared, "Putimacham kusagena yonaro panyati kusapi puti vayanti evam balupase vena tagara cha palasena yonaro upanyati patapi surabi vayanti evam diru pasevana." Just as a man who wraps rotting fish with fragrant kusa grass makes the grass smell rotten, so do those who associate with fools. But like a man who wraps flowers in palm leaves, makes even the leaves fragrant, so do those who associate with the wise. The ideal friendship. This is well illustrated in the following story. The Venerables Anuradha, Nandiya, and Kimbila were staying together at a park in Kosinga. On one occasion, the Buddha visited and inquired after their welfare. "I hope you are living in harmony, appreciating each other without quarreling, blending like milk and water, and regarding each other with kindly eyes." "Indeed, sir, we live in harmony like this," Venerable Anuradha went on to describe how he did this, thinking, "I'm fortunate, so very fortunate, to live together with spiritual companions such as these. I consistently treat these venerables with kindness by way of body, speech, and mind, both in public and in private. I think, why don't I set aside my own ideas and just go along with these venerables' ideas? And that's what I do. Though we're different in body, sir, we're one in mind, it seems to me." And the Venerables Nandiya and Kimbila spoke likewise. The Buddha then inquired whether they lived diligently, keen, and resolute. "In this case, sir, whoever returns first from alms round prepares the seats and puts out the drinking water and the rubbish bin. If there's anything left over, whoever returns last eats it if they like. Otherwise, they throw it out where there's little that grows, or drop it into water that has no living creatures. Then they put away the seats, drinking water, and rubbish bin, and sweep the refectory. If someone sees that the pot of water for washing, drinking, or the toilet is empty, they set it up. If he can't do it, he summons another with a wave of the hand, and they set it up by lifting it together. But we don't break into speech for that reason. And every 5 days we sit together for the whole night and discuss the teachings. That's how we live diligently, keen, and resolute." Finally, the Buddha inquired whether they had attained any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Anuruddha replied on behalf of all three that they had. Afterwards, the Buddha remarked, "See how those three brother monks are practicing for the welfare and happiness of the many. out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, welfare, and happiness of gods and humans. Quarrel at Kosambi. The importance of harmony in the Sangha and the importance of good friends is further illustrated in an incident which took place while the Buddha was residing in the city of Kosambi, and how the Buddha skillfully resolved it. Shortly after he arrived, a quarrel broke out between two groups of monks in the city. The Buddha tried many times to end their quarreling, but neither group of monks heeded the Buddha's advice. Seeing this, the Buddha silently left Kosambi by himself and entered the nearby forest. There he found a cave and decided to spend his vasa there. During his time there, an elephant served as the Buddha's attendant. Taking a large branch with its trunk, he would clear away the grass surrounding the cave and kept the place clean and tidy. Every day, the elephant would bring fruits as an offering to the Buddha. Meanwhile, in the town of Kosambi, the people found out that the Buddha had left to stay in the forest alone because of the quarreling monks. As a result, the people stopped offering alms to the monks. The news of this incident spread, eventually reaching Ananda, who was staying at Sarvasti for the Vasa. At the end of the rainy season, Ananda went to see the Buddha and told him that there were many people in Sarvasti who wished to hear the Buddha preach. So the Buddha then went to stay at Sarvasti. Some time later, the monks at Kosambi, having realized the mistake they had made, came to seek the Buddha's forgiveness. The Buddha then gave a discourse to the monks in which he said, "One should associate with the wise, not the foolish. It would be better to live alone if we cannot find good friends. There is no companionship with the foolish." This is the way the Sangha community can support its members to attain their liberation and in turn be able to benefit others. The Sangha training. The second key part of life in the Sangha is spiritual training. The Buddha once compared the way he trained his disciples to the way a man trains horses. Once a man called Kesi, skilled in training horses, came to visit the Buddha. The Buddha then asked how he trained his horses. Kesi replied that sometimes he trained a horse gently, at other times harshly, and sometimes both gently and harshly. But if a horse didn't submit to any of these training methods, he would kill it. He explained, "This is because I don't want to disgrace my lineage of teachers." Kesi then asked the Buddha, "But you, sir, are an incomparable guide for the taming of individuals. How do you train people?" The Buddha told him that in a similar way, there were many times when he trained a person gently, other times harshly, and sometimes both gently and harshly. He explained, "For gentle training, I teach them the consequences of skillful conduct, happiness in the higher realms. For harsh training, I teach them the consequences of unskillful conduct, suffering in the lower realms. For both gentle and harsh training, I teach the consequences of both skillful and unskillful conduct. And if a person doesn't submit to any of these methods, I kill him." Casey was shocked and exclaimed, "But it's not proper for the Buddha to take life." The Buddha replied, "If a person does not submit to any method of training, then neither the Buddha nor his fellow Sangha regards him as being worth speaking to or scolding." When the Buddha and his fellow Sangha doesn't regard him as being worth speaking to or scolding, it means a person is spiritually dead. When Casey heard this, he was delighted and took refuge in the Buddha for the rest of his life. The 9 qualities of the Sangha. The 9 qualities of the Sangha mentioned in the Sanghanusati, or the contemplation on the Sangha, refers to the qualities of the Arya or noble Sangha. Through the practice of Dhamma, an ordinary worldly being can be transformed to a good human being, and from a good human being to a noble being, one who is harmless and who has distanced him or herself from the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. The Arya or noble Sangha may be monastics, or they may be lay followers who have attained one of the stages of sainthood. The qualities of the noble Sangha are as follows: Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Samicipatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Yadidam Chattari Purisa Yugani, Atta Purisa Pugala, Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo, Anjalikaraniyo Anuttaram Punyaketam Lokasati. Well attained is the order of the Blessed One's disciples. Upright is the order of the Blessed One's disciples. Wise is the order of the Blessed One's disciples. Dutiful is the order of the Blessed One's disciples. That is to say, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This order of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of offerings, is worthy of hospitality, is worthy of gifts, is worthy of reverential salutation, is an incomparable field of merit to the world. Supatipanna. Supatipanna refers to the Sangha community of the Blessed One who are well attained. Because the path they have entered is the proper Dhamma, they are well trained in the threefold training of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or morality, concentration, and wisdom. Therefore, they have either reduced or overcome the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. Ujupatipanna. Ujupatipanna refers to the upright conduct of the order of the Blessed One. They neither indulge in pleasures nor hide their shortcomings. The virtues of sincerity, honesty, and truthfulness are associated with upright conduct. Nyayapatipanna. Nyayapatipanna refers to the wise conduct of the order of the Blessed One. Their wisdom is not just from books or life experience, but comes from realization of the 4 noble truths, namely suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path that leads to its cessation. Samicipatipanna. Samicipatipanna refers to the dutiful conduct of the order of the Blessed One. They uphold the Dhamma by practicing what the Buddha taught and verifying the truth, which preserves the dispensation of the Buddha. They also become a source of inspiration to others, leading them to walk the Dhamma's path. Ahuneya, worthy of offering. What kind of offerings can we make to the Holy Sangha? Traditionally, there are four requisites that are considered necessary to sustain the life of a Sangha member: clothing, food, shelter, and medicine. Pahuneya, worthy of hospitality. This means that Sangha members are worthy of being treated like an honored guest. Dakineya, worthy of gifts. This refers to classical Indian tradition. In ancient India, teachers and religious masters usually refused to be paid for their teaching. Students would live with their teachers, and teachers would feed, clothe, and teach them in their homes. At the conclusion of their training, students would give them gifts out of gratitude for what they had learned. Anjali Karaniya, worthy of reverential salutation. Reverential salutation refers to the way we respectfully greet Sangha members. Traditionally, this refers to Anjali, folding our palms together. This method of greeting is used in Buddhist communities throughout the world. There are also more formal expressions of reverential salutation towards Sangha members, ranging from a 5-point prostration to a full-body prostration. Respect is a very important quality for us to cultivate when we wish to walk the spiritual path. There are two kinds of elders who should be respected: those who are older than us in age, and those who are our spiritual elders, our religious or spiritual teachers, even though they may be younger in age. By showing respect and listening to the advice of our spiritual teachers, their knowledge will be transmitted to us, especially the knowledge of the path to enlightenment. Anuttara Punyaketa Lokasa, an incomparable field of merit to the world. Why are the Sangha worthy of offerings, hospitality, gifts, and reverential salutation? It is because they are like a fertile field, where any merits we do will multiply. Here we use the word field, but we can think in terms of our farm or our gardens at home. When we sow some seeds in a garden, we find that even the same kind of plant will grow differently in different areas of the garden. Some plants will grow stronger than others. Some will bear flowers and fruit, and others will not. In the same manner, the merits that we perform towards individuals such as a stranger, a thief, or a holy person will naturally have different results. We may have some joy in helping a stranger, but if we later discover we actually help a thief who has caused harm to others, we will feel bad and even regret with our good deed. On the other hand, when we come to know that our supporting a person who is holy and trustworthy has resulted in benefit to many others, our joy will naturally multiply. The Buddha established the Sangha for those who wish to study, practice, and realize the Dhamma, as well as to preserve and promote its teachings, for the benefit of all beings. So, when one performs a meritorious act towards the Sangha, the fruit of that action will multiply on the basis of the immense benefit of the Sangha's activities. This is how we should understand the different fields of merits. The noble Sangha are regarded as an incomparable field of merit to the world because of their ability to inspire and guide others to walk the Dhamma's path and to gain their final liberation. Who are the noble Sangha? The Arya or noble Sangha are those who have attained to the path of fruition, Maggaphala, of any of the 4 stages of sainthood or arhantship. Collectively, they are called the 4 pairs of persons or 8 types of individuals. Chattari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pugala. The path and the fruition refer to the various stages of awakening in the process of becoming an arahant. Cultivation of the 4 foundations of mindfulness will eventually lead on to the development of the 7 factors of enlightenment. If conditions are right, this process can take place very quickly. Hence, the duration between entering the path and realizing the fruition may be as little as that of a finger snapped. Such beings have stepped onto the path to liberation, never turning back, by systematically breaking the chains which bind us to samsara, the 10 fetters. The 10 fetters. The path to liberation involves the breaking of the 10 fetters, or Dasa Samyojana, which binds us to the samsaric cycle of birth and death. They are as follows: Sakkaya Ditti, self-illusion; Vicikicca, doubts; Sillabata Paramasa, adherence to wrongful rites or ritual ceremonies; Kamachanda, Kamarasa, sensual desire; Vyapada, Patiga, aversion; Rupa Raga, attachment to realms of form; Arupa Raga, attachment to realms of formless; Mana, pride; Udacha, restlessness; Avijja, ignorance. The 4 stages of sainthood. Sotapanna. When the first 3 fetters are eradicated, one is said to have attained the first stage of sainthood, or Sotapanna, stream enterer. Enlightenment is assured within 7 lifetimes at most. Sakadagami. The second stage of sainthood, Sakadagami, or once returner, is attained when the next 2 fetters, sensual desire and aversion, are kept under control. Once returner means that one will be reborn in the human realm only once, but rebirth can take place in the Devaloka or the heavenly realms if arahantship is not attained within this lifetime. Since these 2 fetters are not completely overcome, one can still experience thoughts of lust and anger to a certain extent. Anagami. The third stage of sainthood, Anagami or never returner, is attained when both sensual desire and aversion are completely eradicated. Thereafter, one neither returns to this world nor is born in the heavenly realms. Since one has rooted out the desire for sense gratification, after death he or she will be reborn in the pure abbots, Sudhavasa, an environment only reachable by Anagami until enlightenment is attained. Arahant. The final stage of sainthood, The Arahat or Arahant, the worthy one, is attained when the 5 remaining fetters are broken or destroyed. They are attachment to the realm of form by clinging on to rupa jhanas, attachment to the realm of formless by clinging on to arupa jhanas, pride, mana, as a result of measuring or comparing oneself with others, restlessness, udacha, as a result of the pride that arises through comparing oneself with others in terms of spiritual attainment. Ignorance, avijja. This refers to the very subtle illusion of the self. Even though the gross idea of self is overcome in the first stage of sainthood, there is still a subtle illusion of self that needs to be overcome through the full realization of the Four Noble Truths. Those who have attained to the path and fruition of any of the 4 stages of sainthood are considered to be the Arya Sangha, or belonging to the community of the noble ones, regardless of whether they are monastic, that is, ordained members of the Sangha, or lay followers. Other kinds of noble Sangha. Just as there are noble Sangha members who are treading the Arahant path according to the Theravada tradition, there are also noble Sangha members who are walking the Bodhisattva path according to the Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions. Those who have attained to one of the 10 bhumis, which represent different levels of realization of emptiness and are based on the 4 Noble Truths and Paticca Samuppada, are also considered to be part of the Noble Sangha. The importance of Sanghanusati. The contemplation on the qualities of the Sangha enables us to recognize and connect with authentic teachers and not to be fooled by those who have shaven their head and donned their robes merely for worldly gain. A shaven head and robes alone do not make one a monk or a nun. A true monk or nun is one who has renounced the worldly pleasures of life and taken to the Dhamma's path to reduce and eventually overcome greed, hatred, and delusion. The contemplation on the qualities of the Sangha should also inspire and motivate those who have joined the order of the Sangha to live up to the ideal of the truly noble Sangha community. In the Mangala Sutta, the sight of holy persons, Samananam Chadasanam, is one of life's highest blessings. Whenever we see the saffron-colored robes of a monk or nun, we should immediately be reminded of Buddha and the noble path he has shown to enlightenment. Even though that monk or nun may not yet be highly realized, if seeing him or her reminds us of the noble Sangha, we will connect ourselves to the triple gem and the path to enlightenment. The role of the Sangha. The Sangha as a spiritual community plays a very important role in supporting both ordained and lay followers on the path to enlightenment. Relations with the laity. The Sangha was established in such a manner that they depend upon the lay community for basic requisites such as food, shelter, robes, and medicine. The regular offerings of dana and other requisites by lay people maintain the life and strength of the monks and nuns, who in turn have the opportunity to teach the Dhamma and to pass on their knowledge and realizations. Because of the rules which prohibit them from dealing with money, the Sangha also relies on the lay community to maintain the temple or monastery buildings and grounds. In looking after the material needs of the Sangha, the lay community also have the opportunity to perform merits. As we mentioned earlier, the community of the noble ones constitutes of an incomparable field of merits. All these are opportunities for the lay community to connect with the monastic Sangha and to receive proper guidance in Dhamma practice. In the Mangala Sutta, association with the wise, Pandita Nancha Sevana, is one of life's highest blessings, which will pave the way for one to grow in knowledge and wisdom, and especially for those seeking to walk the spiritual path. That is also why at the end of our chanting, we often include the verse, Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo, sattam samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya. By this merit I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise, until the time I attain final liberation, Nibbana. For the Sangha, this arrangement enables monks and nuns to focus on the training of their minds, without having to be concerned about too many worldly matters. Whilst the Sangha depends on the laity for material support, the laity depends on the Sangha for their spiritual growth. The Buddha established the order of the Sangha not only to facilitate the training of those who have the faith and conviction to renounce their worldly lives, to lead a spiritual way of life, but also to reach out to those with little dust in their eyes. This includes the lay community. And just as the laity create merit by performing services for the Sangha, Sangha members who pave the way for the laity to grow in wisdom will also acquire much merit. Supporting one another and rejoicing in each other's practice provides opportunities for both the Sangha and lay communities to acquire the merits and wisdom which form the foundation for one's final liberation and enlightenment. Apart from their role in providing spiritual guidance, up until the age of colonialism, Sangha communities throughout Asia were also the primary means of education, which was extended to all regardless of social or economic background. Monasteries would also assist their local communities in times of famine and unrest, sharing grain and other items they had been offered so that local farmers could grow their own crops and support their families. In other words, the relationship between the Sangha and the laity is one of interdependence. While the laity provides the Sangha with essential material support, the Sangha provides the laity with spiritual support, paving the way for them to come to the Dhamma and to walk the path to liberation. Banner of the Arahants. Sangha members who are diligent in their practice and who are able to verify the teachings of the Buddha by attaining to the path and fruition become a great source of inspiration for the laity to walk the Dhamma's path. This will eventually pave way for them to give up the lesser worldly happiness for the greater spiritual happiness. In this way, the Sangha are indeed the closest link we have to the Buddha and the Dhamma. They are truly the banner of the Arahants, Arahantaketu, both because of the robes they wear, which remind us of the enlightened beings, and because they strive to develop the enlightened qualities of purity, wisdom, and compassion. And this banner is passed from one generation to the next. The closest link between the Sangha and the laity is also the one most often overlooked. It is when a youth receives the blessings of their parents, and through the strong connection with the Sangha, decides to join the Sangha community. He or she undergoes the training, studies the Dhamma, and realizes the truth. And through his connection with his parents, relatives, and friends, he is able to share what he has learned and realized with others, and bring them onto the Dhamma's path. After Devanampiya Tissa, king of Sri Lanka, built a Buddhist monastery and invited the Arahant Mahinda to teach the Dhamma in Sri Lanka. The king asked Arahant Mahinda if the Buddha Sasana was now established in the country. Arahant Mahinda told the king that Buddhism would only be established if a sima, a consecrated area for acts of the Sangha, such as ordination, was constructed. Why was a sima important? Because of the importance of continuing the lineage of the Sangha. In another text, Arahant Mahinda says, Buddhism will be established in Sri Lanka if a son born in Lanka to Lankan parents becomes a monk, studies the Vinaya in Lanka, and recites the suttas in Lanka. This illustrates the importance of the Sangha to establish and preserve the Buddha Sasana and its lineage. The Sangha today. Although there are vast changes in the external world, the task facing the Sangha community today is not much different from the task they faced 2,500 years ago. While modernity, in the form of electronics, social media, and so on, can be harmful if abused, all these are also useful tools for promoting and preserving the dispensation of the Buddha and upholding a pure and noble way of life. This is the most important role the Sangha has in our modern, globalized society. Even Sangha members who have not attained to the path and fruition can contribute greatly to society, catering to the needs of individuals at different levels of development and understanding. They should, however, make a sincere effort to walk the noble path and to realize the truth, in order to be of greater service to humanity. As the Buddha said, if the monks dwell rightly, this world will not be empty of arahants. In the same way, the challenges faced by the world today are also no different from the challenges that people faced in the past. The real challenges faced by humankind lie deep within the human psyche and the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. That is why it is so important for the Sangha and lay communities to continue to support each other. It is especially important in this Dhamma declining age for all of us to make the necessary sacrifices to continue to support the establishment of the Sangha and to provide them with the necessary training and to develop their full potentials. Supporting the Sangha, the spiritual community comprising both the monastic as well as the lay community that upholds a pure and noble way of life, will support the preservation of the Buddha, Dhamma in the world. It is this support through the generosity and generations of Buddhists that has enabled the dispensation of the Buddha to be maintained for more than 2,500 years. The significance of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha are known as the three jewels or triple gem because of their preciousness. They are the best and most reliable source of refuge. When we are ill, we need to visit a doctor and take the medicine prescribed in order to cure our disease. In the same way, in order to cure our suffering in samsara, we can consider the Buddha as the doctor, the Dhamma as the medicine, and the Sangha as one who administers the medicine. The blessings, guidance, and protection of the Triple Gem lead us to success, not only in our worldly pursuits, but also in the pursuit of our final liberation and enlightenment. Why we seek refuge? When we recite Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, it means that we seek refuge or we go for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. The Pali term Saranam or Sarana means refuge, guidance, and protection. This has a more profound meaning when we say refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, because we are connecting ourselves with all the values or qualities associated with the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. In other words, we are empowering ourselves, making ourselves stronger and stronger, perfecting ourselves day by day until the conditions are right for enlightenment, for our final liberation, putting an end to old age, sickness, and death once and for all. This is also how we develop the strength, courage, and wisdom to overcome whatever obstacles or challenges that may arise on our spiritual journey. Going for refuge. There are different ways of going for refuge to the Triple Gem depending on the level of development and understanding of the individual. They involve faith and reverence, humility and devotion. Whilst truly going for refuge must come deep within our own hearts, in order for us to learn to connect with the true refuge within, we need to first rely on external forms of refuge. We all have the same basic awareness as the Buddha, whether we believe it or not. The difference lies in its clarity. The Buddha's awareness is vast and crystal clear. Our awareness is clouded and tainted by greed, hatred, and delusion, along with all their ramifications or manifestations. As we continue to grow in faith and devotion to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and keep on doing good, avoiding evil, and purifying our minds, we will slowly remove the layers of cloud that have been obstructing and obscuring us and eventually attain the awareness and clarity of the Buddha. Yo Dhammam Pasati, so mam pasati. He who sees the Dhamma sees me, the Buddha.